Hey everyone, it's me, Arden Lee, and today I want to talk about something that I have personally been cultivating a greater understanding around, working through integrating, especially since the start of 2020 with all that fresh New Year's energy. Big push at the start of 2020, everyone, right? I think we all felt that. And wow, it's been wild. So, this is something I'm speaking of from my own process. This is not a question that someone else asked of me. This is me sharing directly from what I'm um, working through my understanding of currently. And that is that it's not so much what we're doing as it is who we're being while we're doing it. This means that for me in particular, I'm shifting my relationship with self care. I'm shifting my relationship with morning routines. I'm shifting my relationship with embodiment a lot. And it is all because I am seeing more than ever before the usefulness in being deliberate about how I'm taking care of myself and how that affects who I am when I show up. The last video I recorded, which is probably the last one that got uploaded, was about that polarity of just being as opposed to always doing. And I feel like this is a fairly natural extension of that. I've taken more time for myself since the start of 2020 to just be, because at the end of 2019, I collapsed a great deal of the spiritual work that I had been doing for the last 5 years. What do I mean when I say I collapsed it? What I mean by that is that I was in a rabbit hole of transformation, not necessarily knowing where it was going to lead, but continually following the light. And I felt that at the start of 2020, I emerged in such a way that I was able to look back and make more sense than I had ever been able to do before of the path that was behind me, to the point where the path that is in front of me no longer felt like such a mystery. What do I mean by that? At some point, we start to understand the mechanics of how our progress is working. And if we can consolidate the things that we're learning into an applicable algorithm, that's really what repatterning is, right? Creating new, more functional internal algorithms for our systems to live and operate by, so that we can create the results that we want and not get stuck in overlearned patterns that aren't giving us the results that we want. So, for someone who's been doing this work for a while, I came out the end of a real deep, long, psychedelic rabbit hole. And this doesn't mean that I don't have more work in front of me. This doesn't mean I've just figured it all out, but it does mean that a lot of bandwidth was freed up. It means that having internalized the new patterns and algorithms that are working for me, understanding them, it means it takes the mystery out of a lot of the process. And that when resistance or obstacles do appear for me, at least insofar as this particular work that I had intentions around was concerned, I know what to do with them. When we are in our power, by which I mean we understand what our way forward is, whenever we hit a certain wall or obstacle, It frees up so much bandwidth. And so since the start of 2020, I've been in this kind of weird place where I'm like, wow, all of a sudden there's not that much to do on my to-do list anymore. All of a sudden, all this hustling, all this panic, all this, I gotta figure it out, has just been like this. It's like it's collapsed flat. And I understand it now. And that understanding allowed me to process and internalize and then release. It is safe to say that I have been, in many ways, fully transformed by intentions I set up to 5 years ago. About 3 to 5 is where I'm seeing, depending on how far I was reaching. And in the space that that created, I've been able to do a lot of those things that I had been maybe been sort of guilting myself around previously. You guys have seen me make videos about morning routines, about, having better habits, and for a long time I was creating those because I wanted to figure out how to hack it. I couldn't move past this overall feeling of overwhelm and exhaustion, and the truth was that so much of that overwhelm and exhaustion was simply coming from the fact that I was still very much engaged in the enormous energy it was taking to bring about my intentions. Once that system replaced the old system in my body, I may still have work ahead of me, but I know exactly what to do with it. So there's no confusion. When there's no confusion, there's a lot of space that's created. And so I've been taking this time to say, well, what are the habits that I want to start really integrating? What are the places that I finally have time for things to do? And one of those has been meditating. One of those has been just a morning routine of drinking celery juice. Celery juice is amazing, you guys. It's ridiculous. And embodiment. I've started studying an internal martial art called Bagwajang. And I'm looking to really correct my posture, my alignment, to feel my body more. And that's helping with that immensely. And there's some changes that I've noticed which are really worth my bringing up. It doesn't matter how much knowledge I have on a subject if I'm incapable of delivering that knowledge without compassion. I'm going to say that again. It doesn't matter how much knowledge I have on a subject if I'm incapable of delivering that knowledge with compassion. One of the big struggles that I have had in the last, I'm not going to say it was a struggle. It was a growth challenge. One of the biggest growth challenges that I've had in the last 2 years, as I really stepped into my role as a facilitator, has been the ability to hold the knowledge that I have and without compromising it, dole it out to people in ways that they're going to be capable of understanding and integrating, which requires me to have a deep presence with them. I can be right all day long, which is great. And people who come to me looking to understand and looking for that knowledge are going to resonate with that because I'm pretty good at articulating concepts. I think that's why the majority of you watch these videos. But I'm finding that as I'm taking care of my body and I'm taking care of my bandwidth, I'm able to work with people who are not as much in that place of just wanting the understanding and knowledge. I'm able to hold space better for people who are still activated, still trapped in a lot of old beliefs. And I'm able to have more compassion for meeting them where they're at. Why is this? First of all, it's because I freed up a lot of bandwidth. Because when I'm running all of my own spiritual processes in the background, yeah, I can come on and make videos. Yes, I can facilitate courses. But there is a limit to the amount of compassion I can give before I reach compassion fatigue. And what I found is that creating this space and really taking care of myself has extended the limits of my compassion, which is really nice. And I don't think that it's in any small part. I believe it is in no small part related to the fact that specifically in working on embodiment, I'm working on presence, and I'm working on feeling, and I'm working on being in the heart space. And also having gotten to a place where I'm so certain in my spiritual path. Am I certain? I want to make sure I say what I mean. I've gotten to a place where I understand how to deal with and process my spiritual path to the point where I understand my own system and I understand what I'm metabolizing and what I'm integrating. And there is so much confusion that's been removed for me. That I have the space and the safety, the sense of felt safety, to really open my heart. It's interesting, for those of you who took the Myths and Magic course when I premiered it this fall, you may remember that the archetype I was working on was the archetype of a leader. Because as I'm stepping into more and more leadership, I'm called to back that up and actually embody it. I was afraid of leadership for a long time because it meant being in the spotlight, not so much, I've been a performer since I was, young. It's not about not wanting attention, but it is about really needing to be in alignment with integrity. Because if I'm going to call myself a leader, if I'm going to act the leader, if I'm going to be an example, then I really need to be in my integrity. And I've found that the best thing for that so far has been freeing up that bandwidth and creating that sense of safety around myself so that I can open my heart. Now that I'm not worried about paying my bills, my basic sense of survival feels pretty decent right now. It's probably some more stuff that I'm gonna have to work out, naturally, but I'm at least at a pretty good place to pause and breathe. And so many other things that I was worried about or trying to figure out before have simply become things that I'm no longer feeling clinginess or attachment to, because I trust in the process so much. And that's created this space for me to do things like meditate, to take care of my body, to feel my body. And it's amazing to me how important that is. I've been working so long and so hard on getting all the knowledge and information right. And good for me, because there's a lot of people who are really good at dropping into their heart space, but they really don't understand a lot of the concepts they're teaching. And they might facilitate good containers where there's a lot of positive energy, but that might not really work for people like me who need to understand concepts in order to apply the work. So I can see where my higher self really had, in many ways, its priorities straight. I want to make sure that I'm informed, that I'm knowledgeable, that I'm teaching the right information before I expand to be able to hold this kind of space. Which is, I think, why the repatterning project has been growing organically, and why it's been good that it's been growing organically, because I wouldn't have been ready to step into the amount of leadership that I'm stepping into before I achieved this peace and presence, and what really comes down to heart and brain coherence. It's a medical, biological idea, concept, that our brain waves and our heartbeats sync up into coherence when we're in a state of elevated emotion. By elevated, I don't mean activated, I mean blissful, gratitude, love, peace, serenity. And we have that space to hold more. So I've been thinking about this concept lately about, I'm very glad that I am as much of a stickler for information and research as I am, because that's really the backbone of everything that I teach. I wouldn't expect people to trust me or be able to understand me if all I was doing was just showing up with this wonderful heart-centeredness, but I couldn't teach people how it works or how to create it for themselves. But I've also arrived at this place where I have an understanding that for me to really have the impact that I want to have, that taking care of myself and my bandwidth and being able to be in that sense of safety, be out of survival mode, is exactly the thing that allows me to open my heart and relax, so that I can be present with people, so that I can truly serve them in a way that is helpful. So I'd like us to start thinking about this concept in terms of our morning routines, because for the longest time, I was thinking of a morning routine as something that I should be doing, because I don't want to be lazy. Because probably if I get up in the morning and do some yoga or something, I'll just feel more energized. It'll give me more energy to do the things on my to-do list or whatever. But I didn't really fully grok it. And when I had space throughout much of January, I found that I actually had full days where I didn't have anything to do except catch up on the things that I should, quote unquote, be doing. So I did them. Meditate, take care of my body, exercise, stretch, practice my Bagujang. And in doing this, I found that it really does make a difference. I look back and I'm not sure if I would have been ready for all of the space that I needed for this until I felt complete with that process that's behind me. Because I really do think that this all unfolded perfectly. But it's time now for me to get quiet, get still, trust that all the information that I have is there, is available to me. And now tap into presence, into my heart. Coming up on the Repatterning Project Winter 2020 session, which if you're watching this video now, will have already started. At recording time, I'm about to start it in just a few days. And I've reached this place where I can trust. This is why I felt like I didn't want to be rushed into the whole business coaching thing. Because asking me to hold this huge container while I was still working through my process felt very out of alignment for me. And sure, I launched the beta version and it was wildly successful beyond what I could have imagined in terms of the results and impact that it brought people. And I knew I had something special on my hands. And I kept going. But it's only now in this moment, looking and putting all of those pieces together and feeling that peace within myself, that I feel like I really have that space and that bandwidth necessary for the peace and presence that it requires for me to facilitate this work and trust in my integrity and in my compassion. Before this, it was a bunch of very accurate information and me doing my best. And that led to some pretty good results, if I do say so myself. But I feel a shift in me. And I guess I wanted to come on and make a video and say that, like, this is what we do this work for. I'm at a weird place right now, which is beautiful, and there's also a lot of grief to it too. Because all of a sudden, all of the hustling I was doing is kind of gone. And I'm left with this space and this stillness. And whenever we lose something, there's always grief, even if it feels silly. It feels silly that I should be grieving working hard, right? Because we all want to work hard so we can get to this place of relaxation. And it's good. I'm really happy. And the lesson I'm taking from this is that we build these systems and we do this work, and maybe we hustle through it so we can get to the other side more quickly. But the reason that we do it is because in creating this sustainability for ourselves, in getting ourselves out of survival mode and creating safety, senses of felt safety within ourselves and our immediate environment, senses of safety in terms of trusting the universe and understanding our process so that we know that whatever we have in front of us, we have a pretty secure understanding of how to deal with and process it. This is what we do this work for. And now we get to be the person who has done that work and gets to just open our hearts. I'm no longer the activated survivor I was for a very long time. I'm now a compassionate leader. And the lesson for me at this point is that at some point it's just about who we're being. And me taking care of myself. All the knowledge that I went through, all the research, all the doing that I had to do to get here has been about preparing this space. Freeing up this bandwidth so that I could be here and be present. That's been exciting for me. And I wanted to share that with you. Thank you guys for listening.